Hey ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Anderson coming to you with our last video in Chapter 6. And today we're going to try to answer the question in 6.2.5 from our CPM Common Core Algebra text. What if we don't have a linear model, okay? And I'm gonna show you some things that are going to work out. I'm going to show you some things that aren't going to work out, and really what I'm hoping is that I share with you some things that allow you to proceed with some caution here. Check it out. So far we've looked at a variety of linear models, but what happens when we've got a model that's not linear? And we see that in 6-105, our first question that we're going to approach and tackle here today. 6-105 says, Top It Off Incorporated makes numerous lids for a variety of containers. Some of the most popular lids they produce are circular lids for oil drums and other cylindrical containers. Although lids are ordered by the diameter of the circle, the price is set by the amount of metal that they use. Top It Off needs to set up a price structure that relates the weight of the lid to its diameter. Below is the list of weights for the standard size lids currently produced. Okay, so we've got our data here. We've got the diameter of the lid, we got the weight of the metal, diameter is in inches, weights in pounds, and the company needs to find a good model for the weight as a function of the diameter, meaning that x is going to be our explanatory variable, y is going to be our response variable, diameter is going to be our explanatory variable, weight is going to be our response, or diameter is going to be x, and the weight of the metal is going to be y. All right, and we're not going to use our calculator to do this. We're going to rely on Desmos. We're going to rely on that e-tool, because one of the most important things, like if I didn't know any better, I would just assume this model is linear. So one of the things that we want to be able to check out here is, are we in fact dealing with a linear model? So I'm going to go back to my book here, and I'm going to click on the 6-105 e-tool, and already, right, this is the same problem we're dealing with. Already I can see what appears to be maybe an exponential style curve, right? And so already I'm thinking, this model is not really a linear model. And so already I'm starting to think, like, let's proceed with caution, okay? And that's what we kind of see here in part B after we've graphed it. And again, we use Desmos to do that. The data appears to have a slight curve. Based on the scatter plot alone, you think a linear model would be a good fit, but we want to be sure. And remember how we do that. We're going to use an Lsrl, and we are going to come up with like a residual plot, and we're going to look for some evidence from that residual plot in order to make sure. And part of my goal today is to remind you of how we can do that using the software offered up by Desmos. Okay, so here we go. All right, when I click on the e-tool, I see, of course, A and B exactly as I read them. There is a hint in here from the folks at Desmos about how to get that Lsrl programmed in there, and it's actually really easy. If you can remember the form for the slope-intercept form of a line, you've kind of almost got it. And they give you this hint. Instead of using y equals mx plus b, you're going to use y1, you're going to use the tilde key, mx1 then plus b, and it's really simple. It's just like this. So type in y1, and Desmos will throw that one as a subscript, and then the tilde key is shift and right below the escape key. Right there's your tilde, and we're telling Desmos we want that prediction in there, and Desmos of course does the fancy math type. mx1, right? So I just type x and 1. I don't need to worry about the subscript. Desmos will handle that for me. And then I type in plus b, because I want that intercept. That intercept has meaning. And now we're going to go ahead and look at that. So it says here in B, right? Use your calculator to find the equation of the Lsrl. Add this to the sketch. Well, let me just remind you of how to pull this apart. This is my slope. This is my intercept, and I'm just going to write that on my notes, right? Y equals mx plus b, so 1 point, I'll go with 9.5. I'm going to do some rounding, make that a little bit more manageable, and then plus b. Now my intercept is negative, so negative 19.9 or minus 19.9. And when I go back to my notes, you guys can see that right there. Okay. The other thing they asked me to do is add that sketch, and I'm going to try to do this. It looks like we, have an intercept somewhere down there, and then I got like 2 dots above it, and then it kind of hits that dot right there. So I'm going to try to just add this sketch to our notes so we can see it. And let me see if I can do this well. Okay, it's not perfect, but I think you guys are going to get the picture of what I'm trying to do. So I added this to my sketch, and check this out, because this is what we're about to check out in that residual plot. I've got like 2 dots that are above my line. I've got a dot that's above over here, and then I've got a dot that connects with the line, and then I've got some dots below that line. And if you remember what those residual plots look like, it's going to measure that error above and below, or the distance from that Lsrl. And I'll show you how to turn that back on in Desmos. It's a really nice feature here because it's really easy to do. Okay. Part C says, and I can read Part C right here. This is really the reason I like those e-tools. Make a residual plot for your model. What conclusion can you draw about our model? Okay. So the residuals are going to be plotted here, and I can add those to my table simply by clicking this little clickable that says plot here. So I click that, and I look up here, and sure enough, the residuals are there. They're calculated to several decimal places. They're in blue. And now what might be helpful for me, just to eliminate any confusion, is I can go here, I can turn off my data, right? I just check that. Don't worry, it didn't go anywhere. It's just not showing up. I can turn off my line, okay? And there I can still see my residuals. Now, it looks like we go from like 10 to 40, and then where do we go? From like 4, and then let's see, -4. So I'm just going to adjust this and really make this, I think, pretty obvious. Let's go from like 9 to 41. And then from -5, and I'm just going to try to eliminate all the possible confusion for you guys. Okay, and folks, look at what we've got here. Okay, we've got a very, very obvious curvy pattern in our residual plot. And now, granted, I adjusted the window to kind of maximize that effect for you, but I mean, look at this. Like, if I'm going to just zoom out, and let's say I had to predict the residual of a lid with a 50-inch diameter, guess what? I'm going to predict it somewhere up here. Okay? Your residual plot should look like a random scatter, and the fact that I can feel somewhat confident in making that prediction, I'm not suggesting the linear model is a good model. So I want to move forward with that idea, right? That the linear model may not be the best model, despite the fact that when I look at R, right? I use the visual imagery to inform me. Despite the fact that when I look at R, this looks very, very strong. Despite the fact that when I look at R squared, and when I mean, 97%, right? We're going to interpret that here in just a second with context, and it looks like it's great, but the fact that we've got that obvious curvature means that, I'm going to be off in some serious cases with some more predictions if I try to predict with a linear model. It's not going to be a good fit. Okay, so let me go back to the notes here. I made a residual plot, and I think you guys heard me loud and clear. The residual plot shows a definite U-shaped or maybe even parabolic shape pattern. So the linear model, definitely not a good fit. But they do give me a correlation coefficient, and that correlation coefficient was 0.9867. There's my R value. Now my R squared value is 0.9735. And I'm just going to kind of revisit this with you, even though I don't think this is going to be a very great model for prediction, but this means, and let's take that 0.9735 and round it to the nearest whole percentage. And like I said, I use whole percents here because I don't want to confuse more than necessary some of the people I'm trying to explain to. So 97, oops, sorry about that. 97%, right, because of course 0.9735 is 97.35%, round down, of the variability in the, and then here we want our y variable, our predicted variable, and that was the weight of the lid. And if you need help with that or remembering what that is, like, oh, they called it weight of metal. Sorry about that. I'll change that. It's just right up there, right? So instead of calling it weight of lid, I'm going to call it weight of the metal can be explained by our linear model or a linear relationship or association with, and then we want our x variable, and that x variable, I don't want to say with x, I want to say the contextual piece that I'm given in the problem with the diameter of the lid. Okay. Rest assured that if there was a part of this problem that asked me to do any predicting, I would not use this model for that, because as we see, it's just going to lead to some more significant error, right? As we once again examine or inspect that residual plot, especially as I start to get further and further like out, right, with larger lids or even really smaller lids. Okay, so not a good idea there, right? So we've got to make sure we're using all the tools at our disposal. We're using the graph, we're using the scatter plot, I'm sorry, we're using the residual plot, we're using R and R squared, right? There are different types of regression analysis that we can use. There's curved regression, there's quadratic, there's exponential, but they're not going to be covered by us in this course. Okay, so we just want to be very mindful of some of these things and keep them in our brains as we go forward and try to do some interpreting and some processing of some of these things. Okay, I'm going to zip it. We got a little bit of review preview, just a couple problems that are going to have you putting some of these things into practice and giving them an opportunity to grow and direct and give you the opportunity to ask some questions. So, ladies and gents, try 6-110 to 6-112 and come with questions. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.